You were coming in and testing
my jokes.
Yeah.
On my friend.
But you were still wearing clothes?
I was still wearing clothes. I never mentioned I was naked. All right?
Yeah.
Okay, dude?
So it was...
God, I wish I hadn't told that story.
It was nuts. I found one down on the beach this morning.
You found a what?
Snapped its neck.
What's that?
A moose.
You slew a moose on the beach this morning? You slew one.
I was down there going for a majestic run.
Okay, because we're in Southern California, so I didn't know there were moose in this area.
Yeah. I found one.
You did?
Yeah.
Because I'm having trouble believing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I found it.
You did. And you,
okay. I called it in.
Yeah, you called it in.
Yeah. Then I wrestled it.
Wow,
snapped its neck.
Wow.
Ripped its heart out. Ate it for breakfast.
Really?
Yeah.
I like that.
I did all of that while you were still in bed, cuddled, sleeping.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I enjoy is I was telling you when we talk, people say Brian Shaw's the nicest strong man. I'm like, yeah, he's very nice socially, but he didn't win that long because he's nice. He's nice until you try to take his title or you're trying to compete with him.
Yeah.
And then you get serious. Right?
There's a switch that goes.
Yeah.
And flips.
Yeah, it's that extra gear.
Yeah.
I actually, all bullshit aside, don't have that. I think being an artist or whatever you want to call it, or a comic or an actor, is just somehow different. It's a different kind of muscle. So if you're too ambitious or you're too like, I'm going to get this, it's kind of almost antithetical to the the expression. You almost have to be. I don't know how to. I was thinking about this because your competitive spirit with athletes on your level, there's something about this sort of like winner take all. It's like it's kill or be killed, right? It's like
totally.
There's something you're willing to do anything to get that thing, and then that translates into everything. Like if I'm like we're gonna eat this hot wing or we're gonna eat this chip and you're gonna die. I'm eating it. I don't care if my tongue swells up. If you do it, I'm doing it. Right?
Correct. Yep.
Something about. I may be wrong, but this doesn't apply necessarily to movie stars. Movie stars have this weird ambition, and they'll do anything. People like Madonna, there's some superstars that are they're otherworldly in how they compete. Like they're so solitary, and it's one of the reasons they get lonely because it's all about them in a way. It has to be. You can never underestimate how maniacally ambitious a superstar is, right? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it is a thing.
So you're comparing athletes then to movie stars, but you're saying comedians.
But
like
comedians and actors, in other words, like sometimes you'll see what makes somebody really funny sometimes is in fact the opposite in a weird way.
Okay.
It's almost like a different kind of muscle. So I would say maybe this is a good way to say it. If you want to be a great actor, acting doesn't care about your gold medal in the Olympics. In fact, it may be of no use in that black box when you're trying to be vulnerable and play a drug addict or play a guy who hates his father or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it would be of no use for sure.
And that includes comedy. Because comedy somehow, if you watch somebody like Will Ferrell,
okay,
all right, I heard he's insanely competitive. If you play golf with him and stuff, he's just going to win. And so he's insanely competitive. So he's probably a bad example. But what makes him so good and what makes him so funny is also this ability to kind of like lose in high relief. And I don't know. I haven't actually quite formulated my thought on this.
No, you're kind of bouncing around a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm trying to draw a distinction, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for example, you're getting ready to go perform. I would imagine that you need to stay calm and then focus on the delivery, how you're going to execute when you perform.
Yeah, that comes though. That's there, right?
But you're not flipping a switch and getting into that super competitive type of place where you either perform or it's like a win or lose.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to take everything back, because I will say, as I'm getting ready to shoot my next special, and all I'm thinking about is writing the best special ever. Right? Okay.
So you're competitive with that.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. Like I want to write the greatest. So maybe I don't know what that. Maybe I disavow everything I just said.
Well, you're being. Yeah. I guess it's like, as you start to unpack it, I think there has to be any high level performer in any arena. I would potentially argue that you would have to be competitive, right? Because there's other comedians that would love to be in your shoes or trying to be in your shoes. And come up. Just like any top level athlete, there's a long line of other athletes that want to be in that position that are competitive, right? If you're on the top of the mountain in whatever you are doing, somebody else is climbing that mountain and trying to get
right
there.
on your heels.
Yeah. So it's a different spot in the mind to get to, I think, in each arena. So like, even within strongman, for example, if you're going to lift a max deadlift, compared to you're going to do a throw, it's a different approach, right? So you can kind of grit your teeth more and maybe get into a little bit different place. It's maybe more aggressive for a deadlift, right? And however you get there, everybody gets there a little bit differently. But with a throw, if you tighten up and grit your teeth, you'll throw terribly. Right? So you have to stay loose. You have to stay long.
It's balance.
You need to be more calm and collected, because the tighter you get with a throwing event, the worse you're going to throw. Right? So what's very, very interesting is when you get put into a pressure situation where you have to throw something, you need to stay calm, even though your adrenaline is pumping, and the way that you approach it, right? Yeah. Or, for example, in basketball, if you get fouled with 1 second left in the game and you have to make the free throws, right? Your competitive juices are certainly flowing, but it's not like you can grit your teeth at that point. It's like, all right, cool, I got to take a deep breath. I have to execute on what I'm doing. And the pressure is on, but I've done this how many different times? I just have to draw on that in the practice, right? So you're in any athletic endeavor, and I don't have as much experience.
It's really interesting thing you said just there, because like one is brute strength, right? I'm going to pull 1,000 pounds, Yeah. And then the other is when you're throwing, or like a free throw, like if you force that, you've got to be in that middle. You've got to be. It's like when they talk about with baseball players. So like they were coaching this guy, and it's like there's an alert relaxation. Relaxation is not I'm relaxed. There's an alert, sort of like you're alert, but you're not tight, right? And the torque or whatever, your body, you've got to one part of your body's got to be really strong. The other part of your body's got to be really, kind of like rubber.
Where you're ready to react.
Yeah. But I don't put myself. You and I are different people, and what I mean by that is I'm not. You've won at a sport that's and for a long time, and so I'm not going to pretend to be on your level in that sense, like mindset. And so what I'm curious about is how do you, because you, even now, and you're not competing, you're super disciplined. Like I've seen this. You don't eat certain things. You have to eat at a certain time. You never miss a workout. You stay in, you're actually really trim for, 395, but you are.
Sure.
Like there's just no, it's really hard to be that big and have very little fat on your body.
Yeah.
Right? And I can see how you do it. I can see how routine you are. So it's such a part of your life.
Yeah.
And then kind of it feels like everything about your life is super buttoned down. How do you, and I think one of the more amazing things is that you stayed injury free pretty much. When you're lifting that kind of weight, the fact that you stayed injury free for that long, 20 years, is insane. Like you don't walk around with pain.
No.
Like, and people would like to think you do. You don't have elbow pain. You don't have knee pain. You don't have back pain. You don't have neck pain. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you put your body through the most extreme stress. So I'm curious as to how you achieve that, what your daily mindset is, and also where do you slack off? And when you're getting ready for a competition, is your mindset to be disciplined, monk-like all the way through? And if there's even one little fuck up, that'll affect your competition. How does this work?
So, man, a lot of questions there.
I know,
Yeah.
but overall, I'm asking you about your mindset and how you sustain your mindset.
So going into a contest, right? If I would always think of it as a test score. So if you go 100 days, right? So 100 days out from the contest, if any given day I do everything perfect, right? So I get all of my meals in, all of my water, I sleep the adequate amount that I'm trying to sleep, I do the training or recovery work that I need to do on that day, that's a win, right? So if I execute on that day, that's one win. And going into the contest, my goal would be to get as close to 100 as possible. If I'm, if I'm over 90, and this is perfect days, right? So, you have to understand that within life, there's things that happen, situations
Kids,
that
life,
potentially you're maybe slightly beyond your control, but you still try to control them. So if I'm walking in, let's just say I got a 90, 92, 94, something like this. 95 would be awesome.
You're saying out of 195
out of 100 days, right? I'm perfect for 90 plus.
Yeah.
That is where I always wanted to live, right? Like it's and granted, this is on, let's just say on a given day that for whatever reason, maybe I got a little bit off track and I didn't finish all of the food I was supposed to or something, but I was close. That's still not perfect.
Damn.
Right.
And you were saying that was the thing that I thought was amazing. You were saying that you will sometimes eat 12 times a day. Like you're
not 12.
Okay.
I would say 7 or 8 was the
7 or 8.
max.
So
Yeah.
but 4 hours of your day is chewing.
I mean, at certain points, right? So if you're sitting down in a meal, on average would be like a pound of meat, then potatoes, rice, maybe some type of vegetable, something like this, right? Like some type of meal. That it just simply takes, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. If I would not have my like a phone or anything near me, because if you extended that eating time and got distracted, that would then bleed over into the next meal.
Damn.
Right? So you need,
right.
so you can't do that.
But
So
you
it's-
said also that you didn't puree your food and drink it.
no, I did have shakes.
Yeah, but
right,
I'm
at
saying,
certain
why
times.
wouldn't you puree your meat, your potatoes?
No, because the digestion starts with the chewing, so you're getting more out of whole food. And again, it takes time, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, if and whatever, you could say, yeah, maybe you could eat this faster, that faster, depending on the type of meat. But by and large, yes, I would probably spend, I would say, at least 3 hours eating, like chewing and swallowing.
God.
Right? Like on a day,
Damn.
somewhere in that range. Like,
Is that the
maybe-
hardest part?
Yeah, it's by far the hardest part
It
of the
is.
diet is. So that maintaining that schedule, though, that's what I try to do. So I would be very, very structured. And I mean, at certain points, I would even have an alarm on my that it would come up that it was time to eat, right? Because otherwise, if you get busy with something, get distracted, and I go an hour past when I'm supposed to eat, now I can't get it done on the back end because it's too much food. It's not like I could be like, I missed this meal. Let's just put them together. Well, now I got to eat 2 pounds. 2 pounds, and it's just not like, you have to keep fueling.
Yeah.
So the eating is by far the hardest. Training was great because that's only a couple hours, maybe on a big event training day, maybe like 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours, because a lot of setup and breakdown and time in between events. Running it more like an actual contest would be run. So I was experienced with that, but that was always like, if I get to train a few hours, it was great because I don't have to eat. It's like a break from the eating. The eating was by far, it carried me everywhere, or followed me, I should say, everywhere, because if I left the house, I needed to have a cooler with me with food. And then I would always pack at least the meal I needed next, plus the next one, just in case I got stuck in the road. You hit traffic, you do something that's out of, now I'm controlling every variable. So, the approach is, we're going for perfect, right? So if I walk into a contest, my goal was mentally to know I did every little thing that I possibly could to be the best I could be on that day. And then I don't walk into the contest with any regrets or anything where it's like, oh, I could have done this better.
Yeah.
I should have.
That's
done
where
this.
the defeat comes, right?
Massively. The pain. It's that saying, like the pain of discipline is will never be the same as the pain of regret.
Oh God, that's so
Yeah,
true.
it won't,
My
yeah.
biggest fear has always been regret.
Yeah, you
like
don't wanna have
I
regret.
don't want to die thinking I could have worked harder.
No.
I could have done something different. Honestly.
But see, that's competitiveness in you, and I guarantee a lot of people. Well, hopefully they'll listen to this and hear that, and understand. Like, okay, we all have the same amount of time in a day.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it's how you execute on those minutes and hours each day that lead you to not having that regret, right? Because time's going to go by for all of us.
It's going to go by,
right? And it's going to go by quicker
not to,
than we think.
I mean, all bullshit aside, I'm 57. I was 43 months ago.
Yeah.
You
It's
wake up and you're like,
ridiculous.
what's
Yes.
going on?
Yep. Well, and then you have kids and things go faster. You get busy, and it's like, I mean, we're right now already into March, and it's like, wow, man.
I know.
Like, I don't even know what happened.
I know.
It's crazy. Like, it just so it goes by, and you want to do everything you can to maximize. And I think from a competitive standpoint, I tried to do that.
Did you ever work with a sports psychiatrist?
Mm-hmm.
You did. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So I did a lot on my own. A lot.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah. So
this is-
I'm curious about that. What were the things you had to overcome? So you started out, just a strong dude.
Yeah.
And then now you're getting into the rare air where every detail makes a difference, right?
Sure.
And your
Yep.
mindset. So
and that I did. I mean, before I talked to anybody or did any of that type of stuff, that was all by myself, right? So I got there.
you built a house on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, most of the stuff that we covered when I did, finally, and this is later in my career, right? And it was mainly I sought them out after, I'd had, little things kind of come up, like for me it was tearing a hamstring, right? And the approach to deadlifting big weight. And it just kind of, because it happened a couple times where it was like, oh, I'm coming back from this. It was getting that out of my head when I go to deadlift, right? And ironically enough, it was just more training that helped me to build it the most,
Right.
like confidence back,
Right.
right? It
Just
wasn't
getting
really
back in the gym, get back in there.
there was nothing really mentally that we said or did, and maybe it was just me and the way that it impacted me, like the talking. But like ultimately, I had to do it in the gym, training, and then that's what built the confidence. So I built the confidence.
Yeah, because
through training.
I was talking to Andy Galpin, who has sports performance labs in Cal Fullerton. Your mic just came down. You're too strong.
We'll get this fixed.
And he said basically it doesn't matter because people are going to be looking at me this whole time anyway.
Because you look so good.
Yeah, and also just like my words of wisdom. But he said
There you go.
that when you get an injury, like people get injured, and this happened to me. Like I'd pulled my neck. There's a tendency to feel like I'm the only person with this injury. Like this injury can never be fixed. Everybody else is fixed, but I have. You know what I mean? It's like, no, dude, it's just a mechanical issue and we can fix this. But
Yeah.
there's a tendency when you tear your hamstring or something like, will I ever be the same? Can I come back?
Yeah.
I would
Well,
imagine.
it just, and that I think was probably the challenge, right? But I'd been through other injuries. The worst injury you're saying, I stayed relatively injury free, which is true by and large throughout my career. Were major injuries,
Yeah.
right? Because major injuries with any
Spinal
sport,
cord. And,
if you get into major injuries, that's career threatening and ending
Yes.
type of stuff. So I was able, knock on wood, to avoid all of that for the most part. I mean, the worst for me was tearing my bicep and having that to have that reattached. That was the worst. But then again, there's coming back from that, you have to overcome that injury physically first, but then more so mentally, right? So it's the approach to, okay, the first time I'm going to lift a stone, like a round Atlas stone, well, we're putting some tension on the bicep, right? Like I have to do this. And you just kind of have to know that it's healed, then go do it, and then it doesn't hurt. And it's like, all right, cool. Now we build more confidence.
So when you're looking at the field and you're about to go, what do you say to yourself? How do you talk to yourself day of competition?
So going in, if I had prepared in that manner where I was walking in with that type of score, right? If I had a report card and I was like, hey, I did all of this work, I was very confident that I was on a whole nother level.
Oh.
Right.
Because you'd done
So,
the work, so
yeah.
you'd already put in your time.
So they would always ask me in interviews before, okay, well, who's your, let's just say there was 10 other competitors, for example. They would always want to know, well, who are you looking at, right? As who's your biggest competition here, that type of thing. And what I would answer is I would always say, well, I'm my competition, right? Because for me, I was at a level where if I could walk into a contest with that type of score, I knew that I was a better version of myself than the last time I was there.
That's what Kobe Bryant said.
It just was, I was looking at myself. I really and truly was. I wasn't paying attention to what other guys were lifting, for example, or whatever, because I was really competing against myself. Yes, did I have other rivals? For sure I did, right? But if I spend all my time looking at them and what they're doing and breaking it down and being concerned about their capabilities and that type of stuff, I would have been distracted. I wouldn't have been able to train the way that I needed to. And really, I had a mindset of, especially early on for sure, where lock me in the gym, I'm not going to show anything. I'm going to just do all this work in silence. And then when we show up to the contest, like, just bring me out like I've been in a cage the whole time, right? And then I'll show you. We'll blow the whistle. They'll tell me to start, and you'll find out.
That's what Anthony Joshua said. Anthony Joshua said, put me back in the gym,
Yeah.
and then when it's time, bring me out." I said that last night. But essentially,
Yes.
like, I'm a beast. I got about 5 more years,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm going to do. And every time I come out, I'm going to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
I love that.
And you could get into the different distractions now that happen more so than ever, which is, phones and this type of stuff, where that wasn't allowed for me, right?
What do you mean?
Like, they weren't allowed in the gym.
You didn't allow phones in the gym. So if guys were training with you, keep your phone out of here.
Out of here, yep.
Yeah.
Because it's a distraction.
Yeah.
And then it takes away from the overall environment, overall focus, and it's not good, right? So that's something that now is changed a little bit because of the involvement of social media, and you have to have some of that stuff coming out. But even for me, I mean, I got to a point where I really wanted to have somebody in there for that type of content where I'm not having to worry about it.
Right.
Right. So it's like, I'm just going to lift and have somebody that's great at filming in there with me, and they can do that. Right. And then I'm not having to concern myself with that and how it looks and what's going on and this type of thing. So, it's maintaining focus, but all of these things, it's a very interesting thing to talk about, because performance is a unique thing, right? And how do you perform mentally? And then you talked about the physical aspect, where how do you overcome getting injured when you're dealing with extreme type of weights, right? And this is now a whole nother layer to all of it, because you're not just training for, not that there's not injuries in basketball, for example, because there are, but you're shooting a basketball and playing defense and moving, right? But you're not having to move extreme weights.
Yeah, I was going to say, because just the mindset of knowing that kind of strain, something, if you're not totally focused, it's almost like climbing a rock with no ropes. It's like, if you're not totally focused, the consequences can be super dire.
Yeah. Well, and I was, from an approach standpoint, I would go in, and people were always actually fascinated by this. If I was going to deadlift, for example, I would start my deadlifting. Well, number one, I would warm up with the empty bar, just a 45-pound bar,
Wow.
right? So I would do some stuff with that, and then I would put on 135, which is just a 45 on each side of the bar. Even though, yes, could I start with 400 pounds? Of course I could, or 5, whatever.
Yeah, but you're not.
But I'm dialing the movement in, and I'm getting myself ready to pull. And I pull 135 with respect, right?
I've seen you do it.
Yeah, and
I've seen you
approach the
take, like,
bar.
it's so funny because you were demonstrating how to bench, and I think you had like maybe 55 in each hand or something.
Yeah.
And you were doing incline bench or something, and your face totally changed. You got dead serious. We were joking around, and then you were doing that, and you were dead serious. You were like, "Here we go, slowly." Like, I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
It's like respect for weight at any level.
Yep.
Because that's when you don't. That's how you pull some. That's how you pull some
Well,
bullshit.
and this is exactly it. But all of that is those warm-up sets are giving me indicators of how the movement feels. I'm going through my mental checklist of dialing it in, and then as we add a little bit more weight, now I just go into it that way, but it's all giving me feedback. And then if something doesn't feel right, I can either address it and correct it, or I know for that day, hey, today's not the day that's going to be the best day to go max weight.
You just
right?
feel it.
Like it's an audible, right? It's an audible.
It's like this guy I knew used to work. He worked with grizzly bears, and I said, "How do you know like you're not going to die?" He goes, "Well, they'll tell you." And some days a grizzly bear starts clicking his jaw, and if he's clicking his jaw, he's not getting trained today. We're gonna take the day off because he's not in the mood.
That's fascinating.
So he's clicking his jaw to let you know, not in the mood, bro. So push me a couple more times and something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to take that feedback. It's listening to your body. And I think that the interesting part with let's call it an alpha male type of thing where you're trying to lift maximum weight, it's very easy to fall into this kind of no pain, no gain type of mindset. I'm going to push through anything. I don't care how bad it hurts. I'm just
You have that in you.
Yes, but only when I need it. Right?
Okay.
So there's a difference, and this is where this is higher level stuff in my opinion, right? Because it's very maybe easy to talk about, harder to execute, right? So if, for example, I'm going through and lifting, it doesn't have to, I'm using deadlift as an example, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything. And it doesn't feel quite right. My body will tell me, hey, something's just a little bit off for whatever reason, right? Today's not the day. Okay, cool. If today's not the day, that's all right. I'll call an audible. I'm still moving forward, right? And I would rather save it, go. If I need to get some treatment, I need to get some work done, or something's just off, I'm not going to push it. Now, being able to decipher when that feeling is weakness versus like, hey, there's actually something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Because, are you going to be able are you going to be in a state of discomfort when you're training? Of course. If you're training extreme, you're training heavy, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be different feedback where you're at certain points going to have to get into a spot where your brain is telling you stop, right? And all the feedback is, man, this hurts. This is too much. This is a bad spot. That panic, whatever, that voice is telling you can't push through this. But you need to push through it then, right?
Yeah.
Because now we're building up mental toughness. Yes. We're building up a lot of the X factor type of things around training to get to that next level, right? So I'm talking about this and saying, okay, you got to listen to your body. But if every time your body said, well, this isn't fun,
you got to push through. Bro.
You have to push.
You got to push through.
So that's why I'm saying it's a higher level thing, because I was able to avoid, by and large, of course, did I get a little banged up? Yeah, right? The only surgery that I had directly from competing was detaching the bicep. But even within that, right? So that happened, and I don't know if you know this, if we said it or not, but that happened because I was training stupid. I was training with rage in my training because they what they had done for the contest was switched up the events. So I was at this point in my career unbeatable, for sure unbeatable at lifting a heavy Atlas stone, right? And they took that event out and they replaced it with this axle clean, which is a big train axle only to your shoulders, which typically that event in strongman is a clean to your shoulders and press it. This was clean only to your shoulders. And I was so angry. I took it very personally that they had changed that.
Because it was probably a little bit of a dig, like Brian's going to win this. Let's make this more interesting.
I heard different things around it and what was said,
right?
And I know people that told me different things, and I think it was pretty clear what was done and why it was done. But I said, okay, cool. You're going to take out an event I'm unbeatable at, and you put this in because you think I can't do well. I'm going to train it so hard that I'm going to beat everybody at that too, right? And that's the way that
that's where your motivation is actually not pure.
Yeah.
You're motivating that. Now all of a sudden what's happening is your ego's getting involved.
Sure.
And that's where you tear something.
Yes.
You know, Kobe Bryant said, well, what drives you more, the desire to win or the fear of losing? And he said neither.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not doing that. What wakes me up in the morning and what I do is every time I train, every time I play, I'm trying to figure something out. And I'm trying to figure out how good I can be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on something very specific. The difference between Olympic swimmers and regional swimmers or anybody is that Olympic swimmers, and this I would argue this is the same for any sport, is you work on one specific thing every time you go to practice. You have a weakness in your game.
Yeah.
You build the blocks. John Danaher talks about this with jiu-jitsu. Build the blocks. Get really good at escape. Get really good at the fundamentals of the basics first, right? Whether it's a jab, whatever it might be. Get really good at that timing. And then you can build on that. But every time you're in the gym, you're working on one very specific thing. So swimmers who are like regional swimmers, same amount of time they put in the pool. But an Olympic swimmer, his coach is telling him, your elbow's got to be just a tiny bit up.
A little bit more.
Right?
Sure,
a little bit
sure.
more. I love that because now you're not so much thinking about winning, losing, who's trying to screw you over. You're trying to figure yourself out. You're trying to see how good you can be.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's yes, it's a personal challenge all the time, right?
It never gets easy.
Yeah. And that's how it was. I mean, with this, and again, I guess there's a lesson that I learned, a very important lesson with this one thing, right? Is I did train with rage. It was a very, very personal thing to me there, very personal. So I was going in and that exactly was the moment where it was no pain, no gain. So I lifted that axle and I trained it so hard. I mean, I'm quite confident that at one point I'd like cracked my sternum because you're setting it on yourself. And I was just constantly bruised. My sternum, I'd like stretch and it would pop. Like it was just,
God.
But I went in the contest and it was a 460 pound axle that we had to put up to our shoulders, right? And I was fully capable of doing a minimum of 4, 5, maybe 5 reps in the contest in the time given, right? And I'd done it in training. I knew I was capable of that. So I walk out. Now, granted, my arm was hurting. I was not doing enough recovery work. I was not training smart. And I can fully admit that because it was all about this personal thing.
Showing them.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so I walked in. This is the first event of the contest, first rep of the contest. I lifted up and ripped my bicep off. First rep. So I tear it off as I'm pulling it, finish the rep, and then put it down. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what exactly, but it was pretty bad. And so instead of quitting, and you have to lift the axle with the alternate grip, right? So it doesn't fall out of your hands. So I was like, well, I haven't trained this at all, but now I'm just going to flip my hands over and pull like this because I can't do this under anymore. That didn't work out great. But the approach, and this is a very telling thing, I believe, because like you said, there's certain points where people will get their back put against a wall, and it's how you react to getting your back put against the wall. So in my mind, that contest, for sure, without a doubt, I was ready to win, right? I had trained unbelievably hard, and I was ready to execute. So I went, and that happens to my arm, right? So we got 2 events the first day. I go back, the guy that's with me, I tell him, like, look, don't take my elbow sleeve off. We're not taking it off. We're putting another one on top of it. And I got to go out and lift this giant circus dumbbell, right? So I said, I don't care. I don't care to look at it. Something happened to it. We're going to worry about it later, right? So go out, do that. And I was very good with both arms on that event. So I was only able to use, at that point, it was my left bicep was torn off. So I used my right arm and did it. Got second place in that event. And then that night went to the orthopedic guy, check it out. Okay, he does all the tests. Yeah, your bicep's off. Well, for me, the first question back to him was like, okay, biceps torn off. Can I compete? Right? Yeah. And he looked at me like, what? I just told you your bicep is torn off.
Maniac.
Yeah, and he said distinctly, he said, well, thought about it. He's like, well, you can't rip it off again, so it's up to you.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go.
Yeah.
And so I said, and I said to the people with me, I said, all right, we're going to sleep. We'll wake up in the morning and figure it out, right? So I wake up, compete, and finish the contest. I finished the contest with the bicep off, but I wasn't willing to quit. right? So it's not no quit. There is no quit.
So you know.
Now, was that the smartest thing in the world?
I think it was though, Brian.
Yeah.
In other words, I think you get more out of that. And here's what I mean. I'm not telling people to train, and so you cripple yourself for life. But there is something about what I think the most valuable thing about going through some kind of destruction. And I'm just talking about in your life. You're going to lose shit in your life.
Of course.
You're going to have plans, and they're going to get dashed.
Yep.
And if you can just keep moving. Don't miss that workout. Don't stop eating well. Don't stop treating the people around you with discipline the way you should. Don't make yourself better. If it's awful, if you're going through crazy shit, right? Say to yourself, this is an opportunity to get closer to my best self. And I would say God, I don't want to get religious about it, but in a way,
Yep.
what I mean by that is that you're being tested. You're being tested. And you can rise to the occasion or you can't. And here's what happens when you do that. When you do that, you realize that no matter what happens after that, and it might come again.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, and it's going to come again. And by the way, you're going to lose the game at the end of the day. You're going to die eventually, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But what you realize is that you can suffer well. And when you learn how to suffer well, you will not only be an example to those closest to you for how to do that, but you also realize in your own mind, I can take anything because this too shall pass. I can get through this.
Yeah.
It's just a question of how I navigate it, And that's a really, really important thing. So you cannot just train until you're uncomfortable. You got to train beyond discomfort. And that is almost more important. Like one of the things I was talking to Joe Rogan about this because he said, we were talking about he just got this huge deal.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, I've known Joe since I was 27. He is, beyond famous, beyond rich, all that stuff. He's not changed.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed about him actually is he has more peace of mind. Like he's way less intense maybe and kinder, sweeter, because he used to be an ornery, but he's not changed. He is the same dude, man. He is the same guy. He's not taking his foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
He just keeps trying to get better. And so, and I said, what he goes, well, just my workout is so hard. I get in that stupid cold plunge,
which I love,
and it's just because I do it because I know that the rest of my day is going to be easy, and I remind myself that I'm a weak piece of shit, and I got to keep myself going. That's anybody, and it's I don't like talking about discipline, hard work, punishing yourself. I believe in inspiration.
Yeah.
I think you do it for the right reasons, Yeah.
Well, there's a lot there, but for normal people, I think they're going to have a very hard time tapping into something like that.
Yeah.
and understanding the place. For example, you tear a bicep off, and for most strongmen, I would say the majority, if not all, are done.
Yeah,
right?
You're a maniac. I can see you.
They're done,
Yeah.
right? They're like, my biceps off. I don't want to move. I don't even want to move my arm. Just put it right here. I'm done, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different spot. It's a different level to go. But most people can apply certain principles of that to their own life.
Exactly.
Right? And so
be a better father, be a better
correct.
all
Yeah.
that,
But be the best version of yourself. And like you said, yes, of course, we're all playing a game of life that's going to come to an end for sure, right? And that's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's how you play the game though, and if you can put forward the best version of yourself all the time. And I'm a big fan of building positive momentum, right? So positive momentum can carry you very, very far. So for example, if you have a bad day, and this is where a lot of people will get caught up in kind of an all or none type of thing, where let's just say maybe they're going through some type of transformation challenge, right? And they're like, hey, I'm having great. Then the weekend comes, a great weekend comes, Friday night, maybe Saturday night, friends, drinks, eat bad food, whatever. They go way overboard, way off the rails. Now, instead of understanding that Friday or Saturday is now done, you can wake up the exact next day and start the day great and start to get right back on.
You're
right?
not your past.
No, you're not. You're not at all. But instead it's like, oh man, I really like Saturday's going to blend into Sunday, and it's like
wasted
crap
energy,
now.
defeated
Yes.
mindset.
And then it's the whole next week is off, then the whole next month is off, and whatever. Like, it's just, no, close that chapter.
Yes.
Start the next one the next day, get right back on.
But
right?
where'd you learn? Did you grow up, like, for people listening, like, is there a book you read? Is there somebody you came across who taught you this? How'd you, you have brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many?
An older brother, younger sister.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they athletes at all, or are they strong as shit for no reason, though?
I would say that my brother probably was. He was athletic.
Okay.
He went much more down like the engineering path.
Okay.
So he's very smart with
Very
that
smart.
and has his own company and does all of that.
Oh, he does.
But I was always super competitive with him.
He's your older brother.
Older.
Did he
2
beat
years
you up when
older.
you were younger?
Of course.
Yeah.
He got his shots in until he couldn't anymore. Right?
Was he? How big is he?
Like 6'3".
And but heavy, but thick.
Not super big. He didn't really get into lifting. Did go lift with me early on, but
and your
never
sister,
liked it.
athletic, big girl. Strong?
She's almost 6 foot, so
Okay.
tall, and not. She didn't really get into sports that much either. I was just like.
But you're just off the
Yeah.
charts. Who in your family was a giant?
So I had big uncles on both sides. So
Yeah.
so size on both sides. My mom's about 6 foot.
Oh, okay.
So it's. I think it just worked out, like the family.
Yeah,
tree
Andy
just
Galpin
worked
said
out.
all your genetics, like you got the winning side of all the
All of
muscle
it,
and
yeah.
size genetics.
No, man, I'm grateful for it for
Yeah.
sure. It's
Did you grow up with discipline in the house?
Mhm.
You did.
Absolutely.
Religion,
for sure.
going to church every Sunday.
Yep.
Huh? And
Yep.
you have you continued that tradition?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
You're-
try to. It's tough as you get busy, but that's remained a focus for me.
God.
Yep.
And that I would imagine always kept you kind of grounded.
100%.
Like somebody's watching you.
Well, it's I would say that from my parents, I was not allowed to quit. Right, so you start something, you finish it.
Yeah.
You do the best that you possibly can with whatever you're going to do, and then you're going to stay humble, right, and respectful. You're going to be respectful. You're going to be humble.
Well,
Right.
you grew up where?
In Colorado.
Right.
Yeah.
And your dad what did he do for a living?
So he worked for the power company.
Yeah.
But hard worker, really hard.
Sure.
I mean, he was always up and gone before we were up, and
That was my
and
dad.
then you'd get home.
You lead
and-
by example. Like you don't see
Yeah.
your dad much, but you're like, that's what a man does.
No, he would. Yes, 100%.
That's so deep in us too, isn't it? Like, it's so deep. Like being a provider, protector.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a huge section of my new special about. I went to a coffee shop and there was a guy with a beard and a dress on, and it was so triggering to me because he had cork wedges on, and I was like, dude, I was raised to be a provider, protector. It was so radical.
Yeah.
And I go on about it, but I had all these sort of reactions because it's so antithetical to the way I grew up,
Massively.
right? In
Yeah.
every way, where I'm just like, what's going on here? This feels like chaos.
Yes.
And I don't know why I'm so threatened by it, but I am,
Yeah. Well, men, in my opinion, men need to be men,
Yeah.
right? And that's a very important thing, and it's something with my sons that I 100% will teach them, right? Because that's what a man should do. And as much as society, whatever you want to call it, has shifted to this weakness that is crept in everywhere and demonizing masculinity and men being men.
Demonizing
It's-
competence,
Yeah.
Like it's like they say authority, your father's an authority figure, but your father's an authority figure because hopefully he's a guide and a competent man
Absolutely.
who you're looking to for guidance.
Yep.
Because I always say to young people, look, just listen to me. I'm not smarter than you, but I've made more mistakes and I've wasted more time chasing the wrong things.
Yeah.
So you can take, I'm a shortcut, bro. Just listen to me. I can provide you the shortcut.
But that's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom that you have gained from experience you have had. Now, with that being said, and this is another interesting one, and I think that a lot of parents, for example, right? The way that my parents were, your parents were, I'm sure. One thing that I think has led to a lot of softness is, for example, and you watch a kid, right? And you can see this, with your son. Like if and my boys too, right? If they were to fall down, so many parents out there run over, right? Oh my God, are you okay? Are you all right? And the kid's like looking at like, gosh, I should be scared. I should be crying.
Right.
Something happened.
Right.
But instead, if you let them fall down, let them get back up, right? And it's like, oh, I'm okay, right? And so my boys would always come over, and one of my things was to ask them, do you want me to rub some dirt on it, right? And they didn't put two and two together. It wasn't dirt. I was just like, hey, you want me to rub some dirt? Here's some dirt, right? I'm going to get some dirt, put it on, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm good, right? And that's exactly how they responded. And now my thing is with both of them, let's just say they fall down, right? They bump something, or they are actually crying. They are actually hurt in some way. They'll come over, and both of them, I will say, do you know what the good news is? To both of them. And my youngest one, he hates it because he knows what I'm going to say. The good news is you got tougher, right? And I'll say that to him. But it's so important to let kids learn. Let them, I'll tell you what, you touch a hot stove one time, you're not doing it
That's
again.
right.
You learn.
Well, when my buddy Jeff raises his boys like this, he's like, I know we got to go practice. And I was like, I don't want to. He goes, listen, man, here's the thing. Life's a kick in the nuts, but I love you enough to be a bigger kick in the nuts. It's like,
I like that.
My son, my baby, speaking of which.
Is.
You'll learn discipline, boy. He's 2. So let's just take a quick flex break, because a lot of this, just as a treat, right? Because there it is there, right? And by the way, just so everybody knows, I am going heavy today on deadlift. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm done with this sort of like maintenance, this body hygiene. Today I'm going heavy. Yeah.
What did you say? Maintenance?
Yeah, body hygiene.
Body hygiene.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You know how I move really well when you saw me dancing?
No.
And you were like, "What? No. How does he do this?" Right? Yeah. Well, that's just because the way I train.
That's such a small shirt, and there's so much room in
out of it. I know. You know what it is, dude?
No, it's
Thank you.
There's like so many wrinkles.
And that's a
up
medium,
there,
and you know I'm a large.
Yeah.
Now you know.
Have you ever done any type of pressing, like?
Dude.
I just don't see it right now. It's not showing up.
Because
Maybe
I'm all
it's just
back.
because you're like bending.
No, because I'm all back.
All back.
Yeah, I use my back.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It was a wrong choice for the flex break.
Sorry about that.
You scared everybody.
I scared my son.
Yeah.
Good. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have covered a lot of ground. Yeah.
What do you want? What's next for you 10 years from now? What's your goal? Bryan Shaw Classic?
I would say Shaw Classic for sure. That's a big one. It's really grown into a big thing.
Babe, you can let him out. You can let him out, babe.
This is the finest of mobile podcasting, and it's real, and I don't mind it at all.
Well, this is we got the view behind us, dude. You know what I mean?
Insane.
This is what like Oprah and Tony Robbins. This is how they would do an interview.
Yeah, this is next level.
Yeah, it's next level, bro.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
I can't believe you're not going to be here for the fights, the UFC fights.
I know. I was probably a bad choice to fly back.
I feel like it was.
Yeah,
you should change your flight, because we're going to be tearing it up.
What, you're tearing it up?
Yeah, I can teach you about what's going on.
What's going on?
Do you feel a lot more confident? You always were confident fighting. I was messing around with you. It was so funny how you were just sitting there playing with me, and then you picked me up, which was outrageous. But and you picked me up, you pressed me nearly, but I thought to myself, fighting for you now that you have some knowledge, it would be a long day for any man, no matter how well they're trained. You know, Tim Kennedy said, "I want no part of that guy. I don't want his paws on me. I don't want to feel what that's like." And
he said that.
Yeah, because you're simply too big and strong. It's a tiny bit of knowledge for you goes all the way. What is your go-to move if we're in a clinch? If you're in a clinch with a big man, you can't wait to use your elbow on somebody.
Yeah, elbows are that's what I was probably the most excited about.
Just using those elbows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look.
Did you learn underhook variations, like what to do there and clinch and?
Yeah. I was ready, like legitimately ready, because just as we're talking right now, mindset wise, going into that. I can't go into anything halfway.
So
right?
there's a chance you could fight again.
Well,
It's got to
I
be a
don't
real
know.
promotion.
Yeah,
real money.
This was tough, man, because what happened with it was I basically had to put every aspect of my life kind of on hold for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Right?
6 months you trained.
Almost.
6 months.
Yeah.
And you were training every day?
It was, some weeks was like 5 or 6 days.
Dude.
Yeah.
And a lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of wrestling.
It was striking work. Yeah. All of
And
it.
you had some big boys to move around with?
Yeah.
But by big boys, I mean guys who are 100 pounds lighter than you?
Yeah, most of them were 100 pounds.
That's so weird. Like everybody, you got some big guys. Anybody who's 100 pounds lighter than me?
Yeah.
Anybody
Like
100 pounds
3.
lighter than Brian? He needs big guys to train with. That's literally what you're dealing with.
Yeah. It was, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, 400 pounds compared to 300 pounds. Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
And also, he's the strongest man in the world.
Yeah.
So
It was.
you're way stronger than someone like Derek Wolf, which is weird.
Yeah, and he's a big. Well, he was great, man, because
He's a
he's
super
so
athlete.
big and strong and athletic,
Yeah.
right? Like great with the hand fighting.
Yeah, monster.
You know, and so I'm grateful for the experience. I don't know, and this is being completely honest and transparent. If something were to happen there, it would need to be up front, right? Like I'm not willing to, because there's a big sacrifice to be like, hey,
You need
put
some
things-
money in escrow.
Yeah, it needs to be.
I
there.
told you
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
The next time a promoter comes to you, you say, "I need half the money in escrow."
And
I need
it's
to
mine
see
if you-
that's
if you
mine. No
default,
matter
yeah.
what, I need to see that money, and it's got to be a big check.
Yeah.
And then I better get my second check, and there's a way to hedge that. That's where a good agent comes in. A good agent would have been like, "It's Brian Shaw. He doesn't have time for this.
Yeah.
Where's the money?"
It needs
the
to be
first
there,
thing you do as an actor is, if you want me in a film, where's the money? Has SAG been funded yet?
Sure.
And nobody would do otherwise.
Yeah.
But
And this is, I mean, so you live and learn. Like
You live and learn.
And it's one of the things. I mean, and I told this to everybody that was involved, and actually you helped me with the connections there.
Mm-hmm.
To get in with Cody Donovan and Vinny Lopez and Lauren Landau, like
Yeah.
all of that whole group, which is wonderful. I mean, I had the best,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Like there was
100%.
nobody
Christian
better to
Allen
teach
is
me.
a genius.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ninja.
So anyway, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the time. I'm grateful for going through it. I'm actually grateful to learn the skills that I did
Yeah.
as well, right? Because if anything were to actually happen, I feel much more competent in handling it in a well executed manner,
Yeah.
which is scary.
Yeah. My buddy
if-
my buddy said to me, he goes, "Yeah, if you fought him," he's talking to me. He goes, "You'd have to connect on his chin." And I went I went like this. I go, "No. He goes, "What?" He goes, "There's nothing I could ever do. He would kill me."
Yeah.
No, Dylan was saying that. Dylan was like, "You'd have to connect." And I go, "Connect on his chin."
Yeah.
It would just make him mad.
Yeah.
It's not in this lifetime. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
No, it was fun, man. We talked as I was going through it too a little bit, and it was just it was learning, man. I got to go back to being a novice in something, and it was mentally stimulating as well. And actually, ironically enough, I do think it was a good transition out of Strongman 2 for me.
100%.
Right? So like instead of just being done, chapter closed, nothing there, I dove straight into this. So it was like, all right, cool. I'm done with that. Now I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right. So it forced me quickly into that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that was good.
Yeah, 100%. You should
So-
You should actually try to get. It'd be so interesting to see you get good at jiu-jitsu, which like just to see what you could do. You would never have to work your guard. You just always do top game.
Yeah.
Well, Gordon Ryan would teach you that. And
Yeah.
Just like
He was great, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was great. His guys down there.
he's so amazing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Which was neat too. It's this, this conversation. I mean, I guess to kind of wrap it up it's fascinating, man, because everybody has their different approach to executing their life, right?
Yeah.
And any high performer, I mean, I'm always fascinated by anybody that's a high performer and understanding like what makes them tick.
Yeah.
And what gets them out of bed, what drives them to push harder, to be better, and I think that there is some element of being competitive,
Right.
on whatever level,
Yeah.
right? And I think that there's levels within that too, where there's people that are just driven to win. And then, to go a little bit deeper, and I don't know if I can answer this. Is that something you're born with? Like, I'm fascinated.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's not my father, I said to my father, I'm not a very competitive person. My father went like this. Are you kidding? Are you being serious? I was like, I'm not.
You said that to him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he goes, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And it just, I never thought of myself that way. But I said, well, maybe I had you as an example. He goes, no, I think you just would have had it.
Yeah.
As a kid, I can always remember I just didn't want to sit the bench.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be the person they were talking about, not the one who was talking about someone.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Like
yes.
I remember the first day in theater school, I was like, damn. I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to win this though. I'm going to work. Like this seems overwhelming, but I'm going to find my way through somehow, or I'm going to die.
But you would have. That's the thing,
so.
is
it's a mindset.
Even if the doors weren't necessarily open right there, right? You find a way.
You find a way. Dude.
Yeah. And that's, I think
that's the one thing I hope people know, like, find a way.
Yeah.
Set your, like, I love Jordan Peterson said, you can have what you want in 5 years, but you got to aim at it.
Yep.
You got to know what it is, and then you got to aim at it.
Well, and that's long term, right? I think that's such a good point. It's such a good point, because now things have shifted to a here and now. I want it here. I want it now.
Yeah.
And this is for anybody in any field, whatever. They're not thinking about 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. They're thinking about next week or next month or in a few months. I want to have this in a few months. And success doesn't come like that, right? So like you go back.
No, it doesn't. It's like an increment. It's like a slow attrition.
It's
almost like the way a rock gets worn over time. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's maybe like, I love the idea that there's this idea that you are perfect, but you just keep adding shit on, and until you learn to take things away, you become back to your real self.
Yeah.
And you can't do that without adding shit on first.
Yeah. But you were working. So let me ask you this. When you were first getting started, I'm assuming that you were working constantly in silence by yourself to get better.
That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Like, everything I did was in front of a mirror, or I was alone. I was literally spending hours writing because I was so terrified that I couldn't. I learned how to use my imagination, and I learned how to come up with something out of nothing. And that's kind of what stand-up is. Like, I just started to, I think this is funny. And I would say to my friends, before I was a comic, I would go, hey, I heard this comic do this, and I would do the joke, and they would laugh. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, and who's that guy? I go, oh, it's just some guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I'm writing. Like, I was so afraid that I didn't.
So you said it was somebody else when it was actually yours.
Yeah. I was using people as a sounding board. I wasn't going to tell them it was me. I was like, dude, I heard this comic, and I would do the routine that this comic did, but it was me before I'd ever got.
So you were like,
I don't think I've ever told that story.
That you're testing it out on people.
Yeah, I was testing it out on friends.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But you saw yourself being there.
Yeah. In fact, I did. My buddy, my roommate, was in the shower, and I remember he was taking a shower. We were in Hoboken, and I said, hey, I heard this joke, and he burst out laughing in the shower. And
why were you in the bathroom with him?
Well, no. See, now this is a very important part of the story. I was outside the bathroom. Bathroom.
But the door was open.
The door was a little ajar, and I was just making sure that he was cleaning himself properly.
I was just trying.
Yeah, but I was making sure he was cleaning himself properly.
I know, but in order to do that, you would have to be in the bathroom.
Well, because sometimes you miss a spot, and so I was there to inspect him as his friend.
So you inspected him and told him a joke?
I said, you missed a couple nooks and crannies.
But as
his friend.
You can't inspect him from outside the door.
You can't reach everything when you're washing yourself. Can you?
Yes.
I don't know. Because sometimes you can't. I just want to make sure if I'm friends with you.
this is a slippery slope you're going down right now, just to be clear.
If I'm friends with you, you're going to be clean.
No.
So if you and I
we're friends.
If we go hunting, for example.
You're not going to inspect me. You know what I'm saying?
But I don't want you to be dirty, and you're so big that you're gonna miss sections of your body.
Look, if that's what it comes down to.
You don't trust me?
If that's what it comes down to, I don't need to be inspected.
Okay, well, I'm always going to carry a small, coarse cloth. Sorry.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why you were in the bathroom, but anyway, you made somebody laugh, some guy laugh in the shower.
Hey, dude, not some guy. My buddy who I was roommates with when I was younger. All right?
Okay.
Stop looking at me like...
Roommates don't just go in the shower.
Hey, dude, I grew up doing some sports. Nudity doesn't scare me. Dude, I don't need this weird pause, dude.
Now you were naked as well?
I don't remember, dude. Am I in a court of law? Is this straight court? Is this straight guy court?
Look, you're the one opening your mouth and digging this hole for yourself.
Look, bro, I'm just trying to tell you about my journey as a stand-up comic.
Look, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't ask these questions of you.
Yeah, well, you know what? Some things are personal.
So you were testing your
comedy
jokes with your roommate.
Don't say with, on my roommate.
While he was naked in the shower.
He happened to have been in the shower. I never said I was naked. You're adding shit to the story, dude. You're adding things to the story.
Okay, I don't know why that happened.
No,
but anyway, it's great that the joke was funny.
Thank you. Man, this is what happens with these podcasts. They just disintegrate.
Look, so you were riding by yourself, clothed, but then you were coming in and testing
my jokes.
Yeah.
On my friend.
But you were still wearing clothes?
I was still wearing clothes. I never mentioned I was naked. All right?
Yeah.
Okay, dude?
So it was...
God, I wish I hadn't told that story.
No, it's good.
And James, your camera guy's laughing over there.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's just...
And I don't know, your camera guy...
You could have simply said I tested it out on my roommate. He thought it was funny, and not when he was in the shower.
I thought I could trust you, and I thought I could open myself up, but obviously I can't. I can't believe I said open myself up because that sounds super gay.
It's bad.
Yeah. All right. Fine.
Yeah. You don't. In the shower, open.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If you and I were dating, I'm older, and I'm a bit of an authority figure. I don't know
where are you going with this.
As big as you are, I think I'd be in charge.
You think that you would be in charge?
I feel like.
So now it's here. Here's the problem is, again, you're incriminating yourself. So we come from the shower situation to, hey, Brian, if we were dating, here's what I think.
Okay, I thought that I was reading that in your eyes.
You weren't.
Okay, so I was off?
You were off, okay. Yes.
Can we get on? Can we move on?
I would love to.
I'd love to move on. Do you have any other questions for me? Because my baby's crying in the air. I got a whole day ahead of me.
I don't know why you took that weird turn. The point was you practiced on your own. You saw yourself being successful.
Yes.
You worked hard and you were successful.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you had to build some confidence, obviously, from the bathroom and then going on.
No.
No.
The point is, confidence never ends. One of the things I love is when you got to believe in yourself. Like, do you? No, you don't have to believe in yourself. You got to work really hard until you get to a point where you can navigate that space. You can't just believe in yourself. All right?
Yes.
You're still looking at me with questions in your eyes, and I don't appreciate it.
But I appreciate you telling the story.
Thank you.
And I think that people hopefully can get some humor from your story as well as some inspiration.
Thank you. Because
you've done some really cool things.
Thank you.
In life.
I have.
In general. And you have this view.
I feel like we had a good 3 days.
We had a great 3 days.
Put your hand in mine.
Good or great?
Notice
no.
Notice how there you go. Now that's a big hand.
That was nice.
Yeah. You're so happy with your forearms.
Am I?
You're so happy with them, dude.
You like those?
And I would be too.
You like those?
Yeah. And you got some thickness to the hand.
Thank you. It's a good grip.
Yeah, it's a good grip. Good.
Yeah. Very, very, very good. And I think that's a great way to wrap it up.
Me too.
Very good.
This has been Off Limits. And what's your name of your podcast?
Shaw Strength Podcast.
Shaw Strength Podcast. I need some merch. Can I get some merch?
Yes.
Medium.
I've seen you wearing the shirt before.
I wear it all the time.
I gave you.
Medium.
A medium?
Just get me the medium, all right?
Okay. We'll get it. Maybe I'll send a large for inspiration.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
I appreciate your time, sir.
I appreciate your time.
It was great.
This has been fun.
Make sure you check out Bryan Callen.
BryanCallen.com for my dates. Stand up. If you like laughing super hard for over an hour, I'm your guy.
He might tell the shower story. I'm
not telling the shower story, man.
Again. Yeah. Yeah. Are you Okay. We'll see you later, Brian.
See you later, buddy.
Have a great day. Remember to go out and be great. We'll check you guys later.